hold on, we're rolling. Sound the horn and sing that we are going. 27 hours, that is the time. So let's hop on the bus and let it shine, 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 shine. Say sha la 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 la, 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 sha la 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 la. Good afternoon, folks. You are very welcome to Bandito Talks. Oh my goodness, has the internet lost its mind? Has the internet, those individuals who dwell in this digital space, are they losing their minds? It is actually frightening to witness the amount of people who are offloading their thinking, outsourcing their thinking to other people. It is alarming to see the amount of people who are unable to do two things. Number one, come to their own conclusion, and number two, run a fair experiment. You know, I have to say, I did not realize there were so many retards on the internet until I started to do Bandito Talks. I really didn't realize it. 3 months ago, I thought, sure, there are some idiots on the internet, but maybe there aren't that many retards. I gave humanity the benefit of the doubt. And of course, when I say retards, I don't mean clinically retarded, that there's something wrong with them, but they are effectively retards. And so we're going to talk about this today. We are going to talk about how the online space, social media, has become one big echo chamber to satisfy everybody else's biased viewpoint. This is what we're going to talk about. Of course, the source material. What is it that we are going to use to flesh out our discussion? Well, we are going to use someone who is very popular, perhaps infamous, here in the UK. We've talked about him before on the show. We did a full show on him actually here on YouTube. Mr. Andrew Tate. He appeared recently on the PBD podcast over in Miami, over in America. And there's been a big controversial incident surrounding Andrew Tate. And this is what we're going to use as the basis of the Bandito's conclusion that there are far more retarded people on the internet than the Bandito initially thought, up until 3 months ago, since he started Bandito Talks. This is what we're going to get into. But before we get into that, folks, I would encourage you, of course, to like the stream. I only realized yesterday that you can actually give a thumbs down on YouTube. I thought you could only do that on Rumble. Of course, we've been over on Rumble all week. For those of you who do not know, the Bandito live streams over on Rumble, we've been having some great shows over on Rumble. But I must confess, I only realized yesterday that YouTube has a thumbs down button as well as a thumbs up button. So whatever you want to give to the Bandito, whether it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down, I would encourage you to leave your feedback. And then, of course, if you are joining us live, I would also encourage you to get into the live chat. Let me know your thoughts on everything that we're going to be talking about this afternoon. Engagement with the show is always welcome. We will go through any live chats at the end of our show. We mightn't have any, we might have some. Of course, if you are watching this live event after it has concluded, get down into the comments section. Let the Bandito know what you thought about everything that we will talk about here on the show. And then finally, if you generally like what we do here at Bandito Talks, if you find it interesting, insightful, valuable, or useful in some way, then feel free to subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Now, I must remind all of you folks, the Bandito is live every day of the week, Monday to Sunday, but he is live on two separate platforms. Monday to Thursday, the Bandito is live over on Rumble at 11 a.m. Irish time, and then here on YouTube, the Bandito is live Friday through to Sunday at 11 a.m. Irish time. Now, of course, it's 3 p.m. today, but the Bandito had some business to do this morning and in the early afternoon. A few things to sort out. So the show is at an unusual time, 3 p.m. But normally we are live at 11 a.m. Irish time. Monday to Thursday on Rumble. Over on Rumble, we talk all things American politics. It's generally based around American or US stories. And then here on YouTube, Friday through to Sunday, 11 a.m. normally. We sort of change it up a little bit, don't we? We have our Let's Reflect segment. We do some news on the tube. Our little Sunday special. We talk more broadly. It's not specific to the US. So anyway, I would encourage you to subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Of course, head over to Rumble. You will see the little scrolling black banner. You will be able to find all of the information if you want to be directed to Rumble, where the Bandito is streaming every Monday through to Thursday. So anyway, with all of that out of the road, folks, let us get into this afternoon's show. Oh my goodness, I have to shake my head. I have to shake my head. Just when I think humanity cannot surprise me anymore, it surprises me. And this is what we're going to talk about. How humanity has surprised the Bandito. Now, I say humanity because I'm referring to the online space, the social media space. And of course, as we now know with AI, maybe all the people online aren't even real. Maybe they are just bots. Maybe 90% of comments and content is AI now. I don't know. I don't know the exact numbers. But you know, a human has to make the AI. Even if they are bots, a human has to create the bot and give it instructions. So I'm still going to say there are far more retards on the internet than what I thought. I do not take that statement back. And of course, we're going to talk about the echo chamber that exists on social media. On YouTube, on Rumble, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all of this. Because there was a really interesting incident that took place over the last week or so. Now, I'm not going to summarize, or not even summarize, I'm not going to go through in great detail this entire incident. If you want to know more about it, go over to Rumble. Episode 6, Anti-Semitism in Miami Club. Please watch that episode. It's over 2.5 hours. I talk all about this specific incident, about this song by a musical rapper, a musical artist called Ye, also known as Kanye West. He has this song called Heil Hitler. And there was an incident in the last week or so where a whole bunch of content creators and business people got together for this big collaboration. The people in question were Andrew Tate, Tristan Tate, Justin Waller, Myron Gaines, Clavicular, Nick Fuentes, and Sneeko. These are all a mixture of content creators and business people. They got together in Miami, they had this big collaboration, they went out to a nightclub, and on their way to the nightclub in their little party bus, this anti-Semitic banned song called Heil Hitler by Ye, i.e. Kanye West. This song was played on the party bus, and of course, because everybody was streaming everything live and getting content for the internet, all of this was recorded and broadcast to the world. And then, bad enough that that happens, they then go into the nightclub itself. And in the nightclub, the exact same thing happens. So not only was this song played on their party bus, and they were all dancing, or some of them were all dancing and singing to this anti-Semitic, hurtful song to the Jewish community. But then in the nightclub, it was played again for 30 or 40 seconds, and everybody started to sing it. And of course, this caused outrage with the Jewish community, undermining the Holocaust, making little of the Holocaust, glorifying Adolf Hitler. And these content creators and businessmen who were all involved in this incident, they have been the subject of much criticism. So that's as much as I'm going to say on it. If you want the full breakdown, head over to Rumble episode 6, Anti-Semitism in Miami Club. You will get the full breakdown of what the Bandito was talking about with respect to this story. I'm not going to do it here because I've already done it. But that's sort of the gist of what happened, this incident. And so, of course, as I've already said, all of the people involved have been subject to criticism from the Jewish community and elsewhere. Now, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding who played the song in the party bus and who played the song in the nightclub. Who was responsible for playing the song? Now, it has become clear over the last few days that in the party bus, where these content creators and businessmen were all together on the way to the nightclub, this Miami nightclub called the Vendo, in the party bus, it has now become clear that the culprit, the person who suggested the song, pushed for the song, and actually mechanically pressed the buttons to play the song, was Sneeko. He himself has said that he did it. His friend Nick Fuentes said that he did it. Andrew and Tristan Tate said that he did it. It's clear that Sneeko was the one who generated the idea to play the song on the bus. And then in the nightclub, we don't know yet. Well, I certainly don't know. Maybe it has become apparent in the last day or so. But I don't know who played it in the nightclub. I don't think it was Sneeko. It was somebody else. Not sure who it was. Who suggested it? I don't know. I haven't heard that yet. Maybe it's already apparent. Let me know if it's already known. But in the party bus, what we do know, or what I certainly know at this stage, is that Sneeko played the song in the party bus. So why am I saying all this? I'm trying to give you a summary of this big long 2.5-hour show that I did on Rumble about this entire incident. So anyway, you've got these content creators, you've got these businessmen, these online influencers as they are called. They are going to the nightclub on their party bus on the way to the nightclub. They play Heil Hitler by Ye. In the nightclub, the same song is also played. There's this big backlash, specifically coming from the Jewish community. Everybody loses their shit. And of course, what has happened? Well, how does this relate to Andrew Tate being on the PBD podcast? Well, what happened was, after this incident broke loose in the media and the online space, Andrew Tate, one of the people involved in this incident, went on to the PBD podcast. And on the PBD podcast, of course, this incident was talked about. Now, it was talked about for about 50 minutes. I think 47 minutes in total. Something like that. And what essentially happened on the PBD podcast, you've got PBD himself, you've then got Adam Sosnick, and then you've got Vinny. These are the three hosts, we could say, of the PBD podcast. It's a big podcast in the US, and Andrew Tate was the guest. And so what happened was, it was a big 3-hour podcast. That's how long it lasted for. For the first, let's just say 50 minutes of the podcast, there was this back and forth about what happened. They were talking about this incident for the first 50 minutes of the podcast. Now, during this first 50 minutes, Andrew Tate said that it was Sneeko who played the song. And Andrew Tate said that he had nothing to do with playing the song. Andrew Tate also made it clear that he was not on an apology tour. He wasn't apologizing, he was just telling from his perspective his own side of events. He said he didn't play the song, he didn't want the song to be played. Sneeko played the song, and then the PBD hosts, including PBD himself, they then cross-examined Andrew Tate on the incident. One of PBD's hosts, or colleagues on the podcast, Adam Sosnick, he is a Jewish person. And so for about 50 minutes, there's this big discussion about this incident at the nightclub and on the way to the nightclub, where this group, including Andrew Tate, played this song called Heil Hitler, which apparently glorifies Adolf Hitler. And it is sort of, people would make the argument that it is somewhat diminishing the Holocaust. And so the Jewish community, or people associated with the Jewish community, would say that this is a very hurtful song. It's an insulting song. That argument would be made by a number of people. And so, as I've said, there was a big backlash, and it made the news. And so Andrew Tate goes on to the PBD podcast, and for the first 50 minutes, they talk all about it. Andrew Tate makes it clear from his side of the story. He didn't play the song, he didn't want the song to be played, he thought it was a bad idea to play the song. Sneeko played the song. He didn't want to go to the club, he was only going to the club because Nick Fuentes had never been to the club before. So he thought it would be fun, thought it would be amusing. And there was this cross-examination. Now what happened? When Andrew Tate went on to the PBD podcast, Twitter lit up and social media lit up with respect to this particular interview. Why? Well, the first thing that people were saying was, well, there were actually two things. Two main things that people said. The first thing was, Andrew Tate has thrown Sneeko under the bus. Andrew Tate is a rat. He's a grass. That was the first thing people were saying. And then the second thing that people were saying was, Andrew Tate, he has taken the $7,000 check. He has bent the knee to the Jewish oligarchy. He now has a Jewish handler. Andrew Tate is compromised. He has joined the Matrix, the very thing that he was fighting against. He has cucked. He has bowed to his paymasters. That's the second thing that people said. Excuse me. So that was the second thing. And those were the two main things that people talked about with respect to this podcast. Now, you may be thinking, why is the Bandito laying this out? Now, I will remind you, if you want the full story here, go over to Rumble after this stream and check out episode 6. Subscribe to Bandito Talks over on Rumble and check out episode 6, the most recent episode. It's over 2.5 hours. I go into great detail about this entire thing. This is just a summary so that we have a basis from which we can then discuss the actual thing that we're going to talk about here on the show. So anyway, Andrew Tate goes on to PBD. People have two main complaints. Number one, he's a grass and a rat. He threw Sneeko onto the bus. And number two, he has bent the knee. He has essentially bowed to his Jewish handlers, his Jewish paymasters. He's compromised. He's joined the Matrix. Those were the two big things that came out of the podcast. Now, why am I talking about this? And what did I say in our introduction? Well, what I said was, I cannot believe how retarded people are on the internet. And I said that the surprise that I have at the level of retardation that I see on the internet stems from two main things. Number one, people's inability to come to their own conclusion. That's the first thing. And then number two, people outsourcing their thinking to other people. And this is what we're now going to talk about. And we're going to talk about it in the context of this incident, and specifically Andrew Tate going on to the PBD podcast. So people cannot come to their own conclusions, and people are outsourcing their thinking to other people. Now, when I heard about all of this commotion with respect to Andrew Tate going on to the PBD podcast, when I first heard about this, I hadn't seen the interview. And so, what am I saying? Not only do people not come to their own conclusions, not only do people outsource their own thinking, but there was another thing I said in our introduction. People do not run fair experiments. So I guess I could say there are three things that make people retards on the internet. They don't come to their own conclusions. They outsource all of their thinking to other people. And number three, they do not run fair experiments. This is going to be a theme. These three things, let's say, are going to be a theme that runs throughout this show, this afternoon. Because when I heard about all of this, specifically relating to Andrew Tate going on the PBD podcast, what was the first thing that I thought? I'll tell you the first thing that I thought. When I opened up X, I saw all of these opinions about Andrew Tate's appearance on the PBD podcast. And as I've already said, those opinions basically fell into two categories. He threw Sneeko onto the bus, and Andrew Tate is a rat on a grass. And number two, Andrew Tate is compromised. He has joined the Matrix. He has Jewish handlers. He has bowed to the Jewish powerhouse or Jewish oligarchy. Those were the two categories of opinions that I was reading over and over and over again on X. The X algorithm was just throwing me all of these opinions, and they pretty much all fell into those two categories. And so I open up X to upload some Bandito Talks content. I see my feed, and I obviously thought I'll have a little look, because of course I do a talk show. Bandito Talks is a talk show, so I talk about the news a lot of the time. And so I thought, let's have a look here. Something's happened overnight while I was sleeping, so let's read some of this. So I read down through the comments, and they are all saying the same things. One of those two things that I said. Now, the first thing that I thought, because I'm not a retard. That's correct, I'm not a retard. You may think I'm a retard, but I'm not a retard. And I'll tell you why. The first thing that I thought was, these are opinions of people who have interpreted the Andrew Tate interview on the PBD podcast. That was the first thing I thought. These are second-hand interpretations of Andrew Tate's performance on the PBD podcast. I don't know who these people are, who these accounts are, if they are even real humans or they are bot accounts. I don't know what their motivation is for typing what it is that they've typed on Twitter. That was the first thing I thought. And then, stemming from that initial thought, the next thing that I thought was, I'm going to run a fur experiment. How do you run a fur experiment? You go to the source and you watch, in this case, the interview in its entirety yourself. And then, when I had that thought, I had a further thought, which was, once I go to the source and I run the experiment fairly, and I watch the interview in its entirety, in full context, that will then mean I don't need to outsource my thinking to people's opinions on Twitter, and I can then come to my own conclusion. What did I say at the beginning of the show? What makes people on social media and the internet retards? 3 things. They don't come to their own conclusions. They outsource all of their thinking to other people. And number 3, they don't run fur experiments. So that's why I'm not a retard on the internet. Because as soon as I saw all of this, my first thought was, I'm going to go to the source and watch it myself. When I go to the source and I watch it myself, when I watch Andrew Tate's performance on the PBD podcast, when I watch PBD's performance, Adam Sosnick's performance, Vinny's performance, I will be in a position to come to my own conclusion, and as a result, I will not have to outsource my thinking to people on X or Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, people who I do not know, people who may not even be real humans. They might be bots. And bots or humans, I don't know their motivation. I don't know what their channel is about. I don't have to do any of that. If I just run the experiment fairly, go to the source, come to my own conclusion, and don't outsource my thinking to somebody else without having went to the primary source material. And so that's what I did. I saw all of this commotion on X. That was my logical thought process. That all took place within about 60 seconds, maybe less. And then I went to the interview with Andrew Tate, PBD, Adam Sosnick, and Vinny. Now, before I tell you what it is that I thought when I actually watched the full interview, not only was Andrew Tate being criticised for the interview, and for the podcast, for those 2 reasons that I've told you. He's a snake and he's a grass, and he threw Sneeko onto the bus. And number 2, he's compromised and he's joined the Matrix. He has taken the $7,000 paycheck from the Jewish overlords, and he now is bowing to them and bending the knee. Those were the 2 opinions and criticisms of Andrew Tate before I watched the interview. But not only was Andrew Tate criticised, but the PBD panel was criticised. PBD was criticised for backstabbing his friend, Andrew Tate. So PBD himself was getting criticised for knifing Andrew Tate in the back, for subjecting Andrew Tate to 50 minutes of cross-examination with respect to this incident on the way to the nightclub in Miami and in the nightclub in Miami. So PBD was getting criticised for being a backstabber and for throwing Tate onto the bus. PBD and Tate, of course, are supposed to be friends. So that was a criticism that was labelled at PBD. Adam Sosnick, his Jewish co-host, he was also getting roasted. People were saying that he was trying to make Andrew Tate bend the knee, that he was trying to string this conversation out for too long. 50 minutes was too long. He's a Jew. All he wants to do is to hammer Andrew Tate into the ground, make him apologise for being in the presence of people who were playing this song, Heil Hitler. So Adam Sosnick was getting criticized for being a scumbag. Vinny didn't really get any criticism, but he didn't really say much throughout the podcast. So I didn't really hear anybody criticizing Vinny. But PBD got criticized, Adam Sosnick got criticized, and Andrew Tate got criticized. And so I have heard all of this. I have heard secondhand from people, primarily on X, but also on YouTube and on Rumble and some other platforms, but mostly X, all of these people on X, all of these accounts, trying to convince the world that Andrew Tate is this, that, or the other, and that PBD and Adam Sosnick and the PBD podcast is a piece of shit. All right. So what did I do? I've already explained what I did. I went to the source. And so I listened, not only to the first 50 minutes of the podcast, but I listened to the whole 3 hours. All of it. And I wasn't listening to it while I was fucking, hoovering the house, which I never do. Or I wasn't listening to it while I was, hammering a nail into the wall. No, I was consciously listening to it and paying attention. So I heard everything, from start to finish, from the first minute till the last. And you know what the interesting thing was, folks? Here's the interesting thing. And don't worry, we're going to get to the lessons in all of this. We are going to extract the lessons. There's a big arsed lesson in all of this. We'll get to that in a few moments. But you know what was the interesting thing, folks? See, whenever I went to the source and actually engaged my own brain, watched the episode, came to my own conclusion, ran the experiment fairly, and didn't outsource my thinking. See, whenever I did all of that, you know the really interesting thing that happened? I came to a completely different conclusion than all of the people that I was reading about commenting about this interview on X. Well, isn't that interesting? I came literally to the completely inverted conclusion that other people were coming to on X. It was complete inversion. What do I mean by that? A complete inversion. Well, I listened to Andrew Tate's performance. First things first, he did not throw Sneeko under the bus. Sneeko is not Andrew Tate's friend. So I kept hearing people say, Andrew Tate is throwing his friends under the bus. Let's get something right here, folks. Idiots online, retards online. Sneeko and Andrew Tate are not friends. So let's just get friend, the word friend, out of the equation here. Now, did Andrew Tate throw Sneeko under the bus? Well, let's analyze this. Sneeko himself admitted that he not only suggested that the song be played on the party bus, but he actually played the song. He went through the mechanical actions of playing the song. That is a fact, folks. This was streamed to thousands of people online. People were watching this in real time. It is a statement of fact. Sneeko put the song on. How is that throwing Sneeko under the bus? The entire thing was recorded and broadcast to the world. People can use their own eyes. They can see what happened. And Sneeko himself, even if you're blind, say you're a blind person and you can only hear things. Well, Sneeko himself admitted that he put the song on. All right. So how is that throwing Sneeko under the bus? Sneeko admitted that he put the song on. Sneeko's friend, Nick Fuentes, admitted that Sneeko put the song on. How is that throwing Sneeko under the bus? It is a fact of reality. Thousands of people watched this stream. If you were not blind, you could see what was happening on the bus as they were heading to the nightclub. So that's the first thing, folks. Andrew Tate didn't throw his friend under the bus. Firstly, he is not a friend of Sneako. They have a beef. They aren't friends. And Andrew Tate, and you might say, well, how the fuck do you know who's friends with who? Well, Andrew Tate came out and said himself that Sneako is not his friend. So I'm going to take his word for it, because it's him who's involved. So he said that Sneako isn't his friend. And I think if you've been paying attention to the Andrew Tate-Sneako beef that has been happening over the last few weeks and months, you will probably realise that you wouldn't classify their relationship as one of friendship. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, Tate didn't throw him onto the bus. The entire event was broadcast to the world in real time. Providing you weren't blind, you could see it. It's a statement of fact. That's not throwing someone onto the bus. It's a statement of fact. So that's the first thing. When you actually go and watch the interview, you watch it in its full context. I did not get the impression at all that he was throwing Sneako onto the bus. Sneako has admitted he put the song on. How is that throwing someone onto the bus? So that's the first thing. The second thing, this idea that Andrew Tate was grovelling and apologising, and he has taken the $7,000 cheque, and that he is now bending the knee to his Jewish paymasters, and he now has a Jewish handler, and he is now compromised, and he has joined the Matrix. This was the second allegation that was being thrown his direction. Now again, I didn't just watch the first 50 minutes of the interview, I watched the whole thing. The whole 3 hours. Idiot watching this. Did you watch the full 3 hours? If you are one of these people who has been carrying out this garbage rhetoric of, well, he did this and he did that and he threw such and such onto the bus and, oh, he's bending the knee. If you are one of those idiots, did you watch the full 3-hour podcast? So, the second thing, this idea that Andrew Tate was grovelling and apologising. If you actually watched the podcast, if you actually took the time to consciously watch it and pay attention, here's what you will realise. You will realise that Andrew Tate was very patient. He was measuring his answers. He wasn't being overly aggressive. He knows that he's walking a delicate line at the moment. Given his circumstances, he's facing criminal charges in 3 different countries. The United Kingdom, Romania, and in the United States, I believe. So he's giving a very patient, well thought through response. He's not cutting in on the hosts. He's allowing the hosts to ask their questions, to cross-examine him. And he didn't apologise. I've seen some people saying, I said this over on Rumble, Andrew Tate said, I'm sorry if you were offended. Again, people don't seem to be able to interpret a bit of sarcasm. He wasn't literally apologising, folks. He wasn't sitting there going, I'm so sorry you were all offended, folks. I'm so sorry, and I'll never do it again. I won't be in the company of someone playing Heil Hitler by yeah. That's not what he said. He said, I don't give a fuck what song is playing. It doesn't matter if it's about black people killing black people, white guys beating the shit out of women. He said something along those lines, and then he said, I also don't care if it's a song called Heil Hitler. I don't give a fuck. If you are offended, I am sorry about the fact that you are offended. He didn't say it in a grovelling way. He said it in a sarcastic way. And of course, you've got the internet retards who think, oh look, he apologised. He's bending the knee to the Jewish paymasters. I've even seen people say, if any of you are familiar with Andrew Tate and his content, when Andrew Tate is talking to someone, Not only does he use sarcasm, because he's part American, part British, and it's quite common over here in the UK and in Ireland to be sarcastic in your speech. So not only is he often sarcastic when he speaks, but also, folks, we have to realize that when it comes to this, when it comes to giving an answer, when it comes to dealing with a cross-examination from a podcast host or from a variety or from a panel of hosts, let's say, from Andrew Tate's perspective, not only is he going to use sarcasm, but he also has to be professional on the podcast. I've seen these people saying, why didn't he not bite back? Why didn't he not get super aggressive? Why didn't he not put them in their box? Do you realize that he's been invited onto their show? And if you've watched Andrew Tate, he will frequently say, sir. He will say that when he's talking to people. He will say, sir, when he's on a podcast. So if he's talking to someone, he'll say, yes, sir. Now hold on a second, sir. There's something else I want to add, sir. Andrew Tate, that is a baseline for Andrew Tate. He will use the word sir when he's addressing someone on a podcast, because it's probably the most polite way, the most professional way to deal with someone when you're on a podcast. Sir. I've even seen people online saying, oh, you see, look at him. He said yes, sir, to Adam Sosnick. He said yes, sir, to the Jew. See, he's bending the knee. He's calling them sir. Retards. There are so many retards on the internet. It's incredible. People have no idea what they are talking about. Either they have no idea what they are talking about, or they are being deliberately malicious. One of the two. It's one of the two. If you have seen Andrew Tate's content, you will know that is the way he speaks. If you've watched his podcast interviews before, you will know, depending on who the guest is, depending on the setting, he will adjust his delivery. That's normal and natural. It's called being adaptable. So I've seen all these people saying he's bending the knee, saying he's apologizing, saying that, or commenting on the fact that he's saying, yes, sir, yes, sir. Idiots. People do not understand what they are looking at. And so when I watched the episode, once again, did I get the impression that Andrew Tate was bending the knee and bowing to Adam Sosnick and PBD and bowing and bending the knee to his new Jewish paymasters? No! I'll tell you what I saw from Andrew Tate. I saw someone who was very patient, very measured, thoughtful in his responses. Not just for the first 50 minutes, but for the entire 3 hours. Yes, is he measured in his phrasing? Of course he is. He's under a lot of heat at the moment. As I've just said, he's facing criminal charges in 3 different countries. He's under investigation. Of course, when he goes on to a public podcast, he has to measure his words, because his words could be used against him in court. You would do the same, idiot, if you were in those circumstances. No big deal. People are saying, why didn't he not get super aggressive and put them in their box? Dummy, do you realize that he's on a podcast? He's been invited onto a podcast with a panel. Have you ever watched his content before? I've just said he will adapt given the circumstances and the environment. For those of you brave hearts out there, nobody knows who you are. Nobody's probably seen your face. You would probably piss your pants if someone put a camera in front of you and you had to do a live stream or an interview. Yeah, you. That person who's commenting on X or Twitter. You would shit yourself. The diarrhea would be running down around by your ankles if someone put a camera in front of your face and made you do a 3-hour podcast. You'd barely be coherent. How well would you be able to explain your thought process to hundreds of thousands and millions of people who are going to watch you? Yeah, you, that person who's commenting saying, Andrew Tate, he bent the knee. He bent the knee. He took the paycheck. He's compromised. Have you ever been on an interview before? Have you ever been invited onto someone's set for a podcast? Do you understand that there's some baseline etiquette and respect? Do you understand that there's a way in which you carry out a podcast? Given the circumstances, given the nature of the podcast, you should be adaptable. Of course you should be. Just because you've seen Andrew Tate go on to a previous podcast, let's say Fresh and Fit with Myron Gaines, and he's got a whole bunch of women around him, some of them sluts, some of them OnlyFans, some of them hoes, as they would say. Just because you've seen him on a podcast like that, letting his tongue run a little looser, that doesn't mean that he should do it on PBD's podcast. He's not surrounded by a bunch of women on the PBD podcast. He's got Adam Sosnick, PBD, and Vinny, and other people in the room. It's a different environment, different circumstance. Of course he's going to adapt. He's going to package and deliver what it is that he's saying in a different way. But for those of you who've never been on camera before, how many of you have done a live stream and put your face to it? How many of you have got in front of a camera and tried to explain your worldview? Probably none of you. So you don't even speak from a position of experience. You don't even understand, fundamentally, the mechanics involved with carrying out a podcast. So again, I go and watch this, and I'm watching the first 50 minutes, and I'm looking at Andrew Tate, and as I've said, thoughtful answers. Yes, he's measured. He's a little cagey, of course. He's not just letting his tongue run loose. He's distancing himself from the song. He's stating a fact that Sneeko played the song. He's saying that he didn't want the song to be played. He's making a point that young content creators and streamers, they are after clicks, they are after views. They'll do stupid, retarded stuff when they know they are live on camera because there's a lot of noise on the internet, and to create signal within the noise in the modern age of internet content creation, you have to often do stupid stuff that's just controversial for the sake of being controversial. This is what Andrew Tate was saying. What's the problem, folks? What is the problem? This is what I was asking myself after 50 minutes. What is the problem with Andrew Tate's performance? I'm not seeing Andrew Tate throw anybody under the bus. I'm not seeing Andrew Tate bend the knee. I'm not seeing Andrew Tate cucking. I'm not seeing Andrew Tate bowing to a Jewish paymaster. I'm not seeing Andrew Tate doing anything distinctly different to what he normally does on his podcast circuit. He adapts depending on the environment and the people who are interviewing him. So from Andrew Tate's perspective, I didn't have a problem with anything he was saying. I didn't think he was selling out. I didn't think he was throwing anybody under the bus. I went to the source and I listened to the first 50 minutes and then the whole interview. And the interview was actually really good. It was a really good interview. Now, let's talk about PBD and Adam Sosnick, because they were getting criticised too. The criticism that was being launched at PBD is that he knifed his friend in the back, his friend being Andrew Tate. Okay, let's have a look at this. So whenever I went to the podcast and watched it myself, and folks, don't take my word for it. That's the whole point of what I'm saying. That's the bigger lesson that we're going to come on to. Go and watch it yourself. Come to your own conclusion. I'm just telling you the conclusion that I came to. And we're going to extract the lesson out of this in a little bit. But let's talk about PBD. PBD was getting accused of stabbing Tate in the back, stabbing his friend on the back, publicly humiliating him. Again, I watched the whole podcast, and I didn't get that impression whatsoever. PBD made some good points, I thought, actually, especially in the first 50 minutes. And one of the really good points that I think PBD made was, Andrew, you should be more careful about the company that you keep. Because you have got caught up in a scandal and you are now guilty by association. Yes, Andrew, I understand. You didn't play the song. Yes, Andrew, I understand. You didn't request the song. Yes, Andrew, I understand. You don't want the song to be played in that instance. But Andrew, you willingly put yourself in this circumstance with these content creators that you know are going to be chasing clicks and controversy. And what happened? Sneako, who is the most irrelevant out of all of these content creators and business people, he's the most irrelevant. He still has a big platform. But I'm talking about compared to his relevant others on the bus, compared to his relevant other content creators and business people who he's associating and collaborating with, he is the most irrelevant. And what did Sneako do? He played the song. Why did Sneako do this? Sneako's going to give you some bullshit explanation as to why he did this. It's very obvious, folks, why Sneako played Heil Hitler in a Jewish stronghold in Miami. Again, listen to my episode on Rumble and you'll hear all about what I think about that. Why do you think Sneako played a deliberately controversial song in a Jewish stronghold in Miami? He did it because he knew it would be controversial. He knew it would get clicks, views, subscriptions, shares. He knew that it would make him more relevant because he's embroiled in the controversy. That's why he did it. He's going to give you some other bullshit reason as to why he did this. No other reason is necessary. He did it because he knew it would be controversial. And he, ironically, threw Andrew Tate under the bus because he decided to play a song without everybody else wanting it necessarily to be played. He put Andrew Tate, Tristan Tate, and Justin Waller, businessmen, in a no-win situation. If they turn around to Sneako and say, turn the song off, they are going to get criticised for being visible on the stream that's being broadcast live, going and asking for it to be turned off. And then people will criticise them for, oh look, he doesn't want the song to be played. You see, he asked Sneako to turn the song off. He must have a Jewish paymaster for him to go on like that, to exhibit that kind of behaviour. He must have a Jewish paymaster. He must be compromised because he asked them to turn the song off. Of course, that's not what happened. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. What happened was, the Tates didn't request for the song to be put off, Sneako played the song, and then the Tates were guilty by association. By being in the bus, by being in the nightclub, when the song was being played, they are now guilty by association of the people who did want to play the song. So Sneako put Andrew Tate in a no-win situation. It's been broadcast live, this entire thing. So if Tate is seen requesting to put the song off the loudspeaker, he is going to get really, really badly criticised for that action. People are going to say, why is he not embracing the song? Why is he not embracing it? Why is he requesting that it's turned off? People will now come to the conclusion, he's asking for it to be turned off because he's scared, because he's panicking, because his Jewish handler is going to be on the case to him. And then if Andrew Tate doesn't do that, which is what he didn't do, if he doesn't do that, he's guilty by association. And that's exactly what's happened. So, Sneako knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew that this was going to be controversial. He knew that everybody on that bus was going to get caught up in this controversy. And he went ahead and did it anyway. And that was PBD's point, which is a very valid point. And people are criticising PBD for stabbing Tate in the back. I think that's bollocks. I think that's absolute bollocks. If you watch the full podcast, you will see a very insightful, a very valuable contribution being made by all parties. You don't have to like these people. You just have to run the experiment fairly. It was a good discussion. It doesn't matter whether you agree or disagree with them. The discussion was good. And it was fleshed out for 3 hours. And PBD's point about Tate, he made the point to Tate and said, you should hold better company. You should curate your environment. You should control your environment more. You shouldn't leave so many uncontrollable variables hanging in the air. The uncontrollable variables being content creators who are searching for clicks, essentially. So that was a good point by PBD. And I thought PBD's conduct throughout the entire interview was just fine. I didn't get the impression at all that he stabbed Andrew Tate in the back. I thought they had a very engaging discussion. They disagreed at times, that's true. Whoop-de-doo, big deal. Who cares? They disagreed a little bit. They had a back and forth. But I thought it was a good discussion. So I've no problem with PBD. I didn't think that he crossed any line. I didn't think that he stabbed Tate in the back. That was my conclusion. Let's talk about Adam Sosnick. He's the Jew on the panel. And of course everybody, oh, Adam Sosnick's a Jew. He's a Jew. He's a scumbag. Adam goes on and on and on. He's cross-examining Tate. He's trying to get Tate to apologise. Okay. Did Adam string it out for a bit long? A bit too long? Yes. I agree. Did Adam dwell on the incident in the Miami nightclub for a bit too long? Yes. Did he ramble on a bit? Yes. I think this issue could have been wrapped up in 5 or 10 minutes. It was drawn out for about 50 minutes. Okay, that's fine. I agree. If you thought that Adam Sosnick rambled on a bit and it was a bit of a struggle session for 50 minutes, fair enough. That's fine. Was Adam Sosnick incredibly unreasonable? Let me tell you what I think whenever I watched the full interview. Just like PBD, Adam Sosnick agreed with a lot of what Tate said and he disagreed. And whether you like Adam Sosnick or not, he raised some interesting points. And the most interesting point that he raised during the first 50 minutes, which was covering this entire incident, and it was a really good point, Adam Sosnick said, if this had have taken place in any other city, any other location, it probably wouldn't have been as big a deal as it was. But the fact that Snako decided to play this song, Heil Hitler, in a Jewish stronghold. I think Adam Sosnick's point was, you're basically rubbing shit in the face of Jewish people. In other words, you're imposing what you want to impose. You want to impose your worldview on Jewish people. Oh, we should be able to play Heil Hitler. It's only a song. This is what I keep hearing Snako say, and some other people say too. It's only a song. Get over it. Get over it. Yes, in theory you are correct. It is only a song. Yes, people shouldn't be getting offended at lyrics or a musical composition. Yes, you are technically correct. But reality check, people. You can't just, in this life, you can't just walk into a Jewish stronghold where you know there's a Jewish mayor, where you know there's a big Jewish community. You can't just walk in there, play what you know to be an extremely controversial song, and expect there not to be backlash and kickback. Of course there is going to be kickback, and there's going to be discussions about this. Stop living in a delusional world. Yes, I understand. In an ideal world, wouldn't it be great if people didn't get offended by songs and lyrics? Yes, that would be great. I agree with you. But that's not the world we live in, idiots. We live in a world, and I said this on my show on Rumble. Here in Ireland, you have Protestants and you have Catholics. And for those of you who live in Ireland or live in the UK and you are familiar with the troubles here in Northern Ireland, the civil war between Protestants and Catholics, you will know that there are certain places in Northern Ireland that are Protestant strongholds and certain places that are Catholic strongholds. If I, as a Protestant, say I'm a Protestant, for example, if I were to put my Union Jack hoodie on and walk into a Catholic stronghold singing God Save the Queen, I am asking for trouble. I am asking for controversy. Of course I am. It doesn't matter what I think about the song God Save the Queen. It doesn't matter what I think about hoodies that have the British flag on them. It doesn't matter what I think should be right in this world. The reality of the world is, if you do that here in Northern Ireland, you are probably going to have a problem on your hands. And so it's no different in this instance. Sneeko, and not just Sneeko, Nick Fuentes, Myron Gaines, Clavicular, all of them. They all knew the ramifications of playing that song in a Jewish stronghold, and they went ahead and did it anyway. Which should tell you something interesting about them. As content creators, of course. And so, what is my point here? Adam Sosnick, all this criticism that Adam Sosnick is getting. And he's getting this criticism, why? Because he's a Jew. We're going to talk about that in a second. Adam Sosnick's point was, you can't just go into a Jewish stronghold and play a song that you know is going to be deliberately controversial and offensive to that community and expect there not to be backlash. That was Adam's point, as I understood it. And that is a perfectly valid point. Did Adam ramble on a bit? Yes, he did. Did he bring up some valid topics of discussion? Points of discussion? Of course he did. And not only in the first 50 minutes, across the whole show, he did. When they were talking about the UAE compared to America, out in Dubai. The pros and cons of living in Dubai versus America. When they were talking about feminism. Of course Adam raised some valid points. Now I've heard some people say Adam's a snake, he'll stab you in the back. I don't know the man. I'm just going on the interview, folks. Watching the interview in context. I had no problem with what Adam Sosnick was really saying fundamentally. Yes, he rambled on a bit for 50 minutes. He could have wrapped it up in 10 minutes. It was a bit of a struggle. He kept going on and on and on. Fine. He made his point. He made a very relevant point about not playing stuff in a Jewish stronghold that you know is going to deliberately provoke Jewish people. That's a valid point. The same thing applies here in Northern Ireland. You can't just go in to a Catholic neighbourhood with a Union Jack hoodie on, singing God Save the Queen, and expect there not to be controversy or kickback. It's the same thing. That's fine. So I had no problem with PBD and his performance. There was healthy disagreement. There was healthy agreement. Adam Sosnick rambled on a bit for 50 minutes. Fair enough. But overall, I thought his contribution was just fine. I didn't think he violated anybody's friendship, or I didn't think that he was stabbing anybody in the back. And Andrew Tate's performance. I didn't think he threw anybody onto the bus. I didn't think he was apologising about anything. I didn't think he had sold out. I thought he was very measured, very patient. He was weighing up his words, given his circumstances, given the incident. And then I thought he actually gave a very good performance throughout the 3 hours. Yes, the first 50 minutes was a bit of a struggle because he was constantly repeating himself. Because yes, Adam did go on a bit. That's fine. But the podcast as a whole, especially after the 50-minute mark, was very good. It was a very good podcast. Okay, now, why am I saying all this, folks? Social media as an echo chamber. This is the lesson. We're going to get into the lesson now. Now that I've laid all this out. And hopefully you understand what is happening here. Even if you haven't seen any of this. If you don't know anything about this incident or any of these people that I'm talking about. Hopefully that is somewhat clear, the summary. Now, what is the lesson here, folks? Well, it's to do with social media being an echo chamber. What do I mean by that? An echo chamber. Social media, folks, for those of you that do not realize, the algorithm feeds you what your own bias wants to hear. In other words, it gives you information that confirms your worldview. In other words, it puts you in a bubble. It puts you in a bubble, an echo chamber, whereby you're being fed the same thing over and over that essentially is trying to feed your own confirmation bias. It's trying to feed you what it is that you want to hear. That's what I mean by an echo chamber. Now, the X algorithm, whenever I put my phone on, it was feeding me what it thought I wanted to see. All of this stuff about Andrew Tate, Nick Fuentes, this incident at the Miami nightclub, it was feeding me all of this. And whenever I clicked into something, it interpreted that as me liking that piece of content or being interested in that piece of content, so it fed me more of it. And so it got me further into the bubble. And normally what the algorithm is doing is it is literally feeding your own bias. It wants to confirm what it is that you already know. And so what ends up happening, folks? Well, this is what ends up happening. Everything that I've just said. I go on to X, and if I didn't go and run a fair experiment by going to the source, which was the PBD interview with Andrew Tate, if I didn't go to the source and listen to the whole thing in context, and if all that I did was just listen to opinions on X that the algorithm was feeding me to keep me in an echo chamber, if that's all that I did, then I would be permanently stuck in the echo chamber believing what other people were telling me based on their interpretation and their bias. That is a trap, folks. Please realize this is a trap. Social media and its echo chamber is trying to get you to stop thinking for yourself. Social media and its echo chamber is trying to get you to stop coming to your own conclusions. Social media's echo chamber, through its algorithms, wants you to outsource your thinking, to not engage your own brain, not come to your own conclusions. It wants you to outsource your thinking to other people, to other accounts, and it wants you to not run a fair experiment by going straight to the source and coming to your own conclusion. Why does it not want you to do that? Because if you go to the source, if you come to your own conclusions and you don't outsource your thinking to influencers, to bloody robot accounts, or some other idiot online who doesn't know shit about the world, if you don't do that, that means you can't be controlled in the way that someone can be controlled if they are doing all of those things. If someone is outsourcing their thinking to the social media algorithm, what it is that it is feeding them, if someone is outsourcing their thinking, not engaging their own brain, not coming to their own conclusions, and not running fair experiments by going to the source and coming to your own conclusion, if that's what you are doing, you are really easy to control, manipulate, and exploit. That is the big lesson here, folks. Now, whether you agree with what I've just said about Andrew Tate, the PBD podcast crew, if you are getting essentially swept up in agreeing or disagreeing with that, you are a retard. You are an internet retard. That isn't even the point. I'm just laying that out so that you understand the context of what it is that I'm saying now. It's not about agreeing or disagreeing with what I'm saying here. The point here is, I'm telling you that a few days ago, I opened up X, and X's algorithm bombarded me with opinions and a whole bunch of them repeating the same thing over and over and over again. Andrew Tate has thrown Snako under the bus. Andrew Tate has bent the knee. He has folded under no pressure. He has Jewish paymasters. Andrew Tate is now compromised. Andrew Tate has joined the matrix that he was fighting against. This is what I was reading. And the algorithm was bombarding me with opinion after opinion, trying to confirm what it is that it thinks I am thinking. But you see, what happened? The algorithm of X failed. Why did it fail on me? Because I do not outsource my thinking to anybody. Nobody. I never outsource my thinking. I always, first and foremost, I always come to my own conclusions. I don't listen to Snako. I don't listen to Nick Fuentes. I don't listen to Andrew or Tristan Tate to give me the answer to anything. What I do is I come to my own conclusions. I never outsource my thinking. And the reason why I do that is so that I am not easy to control, manipulate, and therefore exploit. That is the lesson. If you are getting caught up in agreeing or disagreeing with me, you're an idiot. Idiot. You are one of the internet retards that I was referring to at the beginning of the stream. It's not about agreeing or disagreeing here. It's about understanding what social media's echo chamber is trying to get you to do. It's trying to get you to outsource your thinking to other people, to other institutions, to other accounts. That's what it's trying to get you to do. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't use social media. What I'm saying is you need to be aware of the trap. Social media can be very useful. Of course it can be. I'm not going to set an outline and waste time talking about how it can be useful. We all know that social media can be useful if it's utilized properly. But you need to be aware that there's a big, dirty trap that you can fall into with social media. And it's to do with this echo chamber that is trying to feed you opinions and information. And it's trying to get you to succumb to your energy conservation. Because that's what it is, folks. Do you not think it took effort for me to go and listen to a 3-hour podcast consciously with Andrew Tate, Adam Sosnick, PBD and Vinny? Do you not think that took effort for me to do? Of course it took effort. It took energy. It required me to defeat my energy conservation mechanism. All animals have an inbuilt energy conservation mechanism. We want to avoid pain and obtain pleasure by investing the most minimal amount of energy necessary to obtain the pleasure and avoid the pain. It's basic animal instincts. And so social media is trying to tap into this. It's trying to get you to succumb to your energy conservation mechanism. It wants you to just scroll like a slot machine at a casino. Do you ever realize that, folks? It's like you're scrolling. It's like a slot machine. That's not accidental. It's meant to be addictive. It's meant to trap you. And that is the thing here. The thing here is, you need to understand what you're looking at. You need to understand the trap. Because if I was an idiot who has outsourced my thinking and isn't paying attention in the world, and if I was an idiot who is literally wandering through this life on autopilot, then you know what I would have done? I would have lifted up my phone, read all of these opinions on X, allowed the echo chamber to feed me what it is that I'm supposed to think about the world. I would have allowed that to happen, and I would have went, oh yeah, Andrew Tate has sold out. Would you look at that? Oh, not only has he sold out, but he was grovelling and apologising, and he threw his friend under the bus. Poor old Sneeko. And then I would have went on about my business. And you see, you might say to me, well, who gives a shit? These are just a bunch of internet celebrities. Again, if you are a dipshit, you will say something like that because you're not understanding the broader point that I'm making here. It's not really even about this circumstance per se. It's about the broader lesson. The broader lesson here is you may not be interested in this particular circumstance, but there might be something else that happens in the world. There could be a significant event in the world, if you catch my drift. There might be a significant event in the world. And if you are outsourcing your thinking to other people, to other media organizations, to other accounts, then you may acquire the wrong, inaccurate information about this significant event. And then you may end up making mistakes in your decision making. And then who loses out when you make mistakes in your own life? You lose out. Why did you lose out? Let's go back to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is you outsourced your thinking. And if there's a significant event in the world and you are on autopilot and you aren't engaging your own brain, coming to your own conclusions, not outsourcing your thinking, running fair experiments, getting multiple viewpoints to cross-reference your own conclusions, trying to find accurate sources of information, running background checks on these sources of information, and then cross-referencing your own conclusions with accurate sources of information. If you are doing that, then if there is a more significant event in the world that could impact your life and your existence, then it means you are more difficult to control, you are more difficult to manipulate, and you are more difficult to exploit. Why? Because you are looking at the world with less distortion. When you look at the world through a lens of less distortion, you are now in a position where it's more difficult to manipulate you. And if you are more difficult to manipulate, it's more difficult to exploit you. And so even though you may not be interested in this particular story, you may not be interested in Andrew Tate, PBD, Nick Fuentes, Sneeko, Clavicular, Myron Gaines, Tristan Tate, Justin Waller, what has happened on the podcast, this incident. Even if you're not interested in this, the broad lesson is, I'm telling you, I'm using myself as an example because I know this has happened to you. If you're on social media, you are constantly in the social media echo chamber. You can't avoid it. When you go on to social media, you're in it. Just in the same way as you live in a world where you are surrounded by high calorie density food. Food that is very tasty, food that gives your little dopamine pleasure receptors a hit. You are surrounded by supernormal food, which is super high calorie, or has a super high calorie density. You're surrounded by it in your environment. The temptation exists to eat high fat, high calorie, trash food because you're surrounded by it. So how do you try and get out of the trap? Well, you need to develop awareness that the trap exists. There is a dietary pleasure trap that surrounds you. We are surrounded by fast food. We are surrounded by supermarkets that sell processed garbage. It's all super high calorie density food. It gives you a pleasure hit. It essentially gives you this dopamine release when you eat this high calorie density food. It's pleasurable. And it doesn't take very much chewing. So you're conserving energy while you're doing it. All you have to do is hop in your car, go into the drive-thru, eat this really high calorie density food that you barely have to chew, and job done. We call that the dietary pleasure trap. It's the reason why 2/3 of people are overweight or obese on the planet. Because we are bathed in this environment of high calorie density food. In other words, it's a trap. How do you avoid putting your foot in the trap? You need to become aware that the trap exists. It's the same with social media. If you are on social media, you are going to be exposed to the trap. So you need to become aware that it exists. And this echo chamber, I'm using myself as an example. And I'm giving you an example of an incident here with Andrew Tate on the PBD podcast. The X algorithm was creating this echo chamber around me of feedback and opinions, trying to tell me what to think about Andrew Tate and his interview on the PBD podcast. The algorithm was trying to tell me, force me into thinking a certain way, but it didn't succeed. Why? Because I'm aware of the trap, and I know the actionable steps that I need to take to ensure that I don't fall into the trap. What are the actionable steps? Don't outsource your thinking to other people, institutions, or accounts online. Come to your own conclusions first, and always run a fair experiment. Don't take someone's word for someone, or don't take someone's word about someone or about a certain situation. Go to the source. Do your own homework. Do your own research. Get as much of the source material as possible. Make sure that you are getting it first hand. Make sure that you generate your own conclusion first. And then once you have generated your own conclusions, then what you can do is you then go and find trustworthy sources of information. You run a background check on those sources to make sure that they are relaying accurate information. You do the background check to see what their history is with regards to telling the truth and having humility to admit when they are wrong. You get a whole bunch of trustworthy sources on the table, and then when you have come to your own conclusion, you can then look at cross-referencing, not offloading your thinking, not outsourcing your thinking. There's a big difference, folks, between offloading or outsourcing your thinking compared to cross-referencing. You want to cross-reference your thinking with accurate, reliable sources of information. That's fine. That's good, because maybe you have overlooked something in your initial conclusion that you've drawn. So it's good to cross-reference, but you should never outsource your thinking. You should never just take someone's word for it. You shouldn't just take the X algorithm's word for it either. You shouldn't just assume that what you're being fed is actually representative of reality. Never outsource your thinking. And this brings me on to the final thing. What has this echo chamber done specifically with regards to this issue? Let me have a drink of water before I draw things to a close. Okay. So, hopefully we understand the broad lesson here. But let me just, to draw things to a close, go back into this specific circumstance with Andrew Tate and the PBD podcast and the hosts of the PBD podcast. When we are looking at the social media echo chamber in the context of this story, we are seeing something very interesting. There has been this growing contingent in the online social media space, and I'm going to label it the Israel critical or the Jew critical contingent. So we have this contingent of people online, and it's growing and growing and growing, the Israel critics and the Jew critics. There are an increasing number of people or accounts online that are criticizing Israel and that are criticizing Jewish people. And Jewish people who hold positions of power and authority in our societies and in our governments, perhaps. So there's this growing contingent online of people who are Israel critical and Jew critical. And it's really interesting, folks, to watch this play out. Because here's what's happening. If a bird flies above you and the bird shits on you, what people are now saying is, it's Israel. Netanyahu sent an invisible drone to hover above me and unload a bird shit capsule to unload all this shit over me. It wasn't a bird that shit on me, it was Israel. It was Netanyahu, and it was the Jewish oligarchy of America and the Jewish elites that run the world. That's the reason why a bird shit on me today. It was the Jews. It was Israel. It was Netanyahu. This is what's starting to happen online. You have got a whole bunch, they're not all retards, but you've got a bunch of absolute idiots online. And I call them idiots because these people are taking zero responsibility for their own life. They are just looking for any reason to blame someone else for their miserable, unproductive, uneventful, shitty life. And it is convenient for them to blame Israel, to blame the Jews for why their life is shit and for why a bird has just shit on them. It must be Netanyahu. It must be Israel. It has to be the Jews. That's the reason why the bird shit on me. It wasn't a bird. It was an invisible drone that was sent specifically to unload bird shit on me. This is how ludicrous it is getting, folks. And I'll tell you why I believe this growing contingent of people is getting bigger and bigger online. It's because of what we are talking about here. The online social media echo chamber. People will do anything to offload responsibility for their own life, being miserable. People will look for any reason at all, to blame someone else for why their life is shit. And then, of course, the logical conclusion that this Israel critical, Jew critical contingent comes to is that when anything happens in the world, anything, it doesn't matter if it's something as silly as a bird shitting on you. It doesn't matter. No matter what happens in the world, the only explanation that will satisfy this growing contingent is Israel, Netanyahu, or the Jews. Everything is Israel, Netanyahu, and the Jews. And when people adopt this mentality, what they basically do is they offload responsibility for their own life. They want to blame someone else for why they have a miserable existence. Let me tell you something, folks. I'm not a multi-millionaire or billionaire. I don't have hundreds of millions of dollars or pounds or billions. I'm more of a regular common citizen. Let me tell you something. My life is great. I lost my dad 2 weeks ago. My dad died at 63 years of age from cancer. A lot of life left on the table. Me, I've lost my dad 2 weeks ago. And I'm telling you that my life is great. I love my life. Sure, I'm sad that my dad died, but I love my life. I really enjoy my life. There are lots of goals and ambitions that I have and that I'm currently pursuing. I'm very productive every day. I keep in good physical shape. I get my exercise done. I tick off my fundamentals. I get good sleep. I get outside and get daylight and sunshine. I eat well. I do my exercise, as I've said. I do a bit of fasting. I keep myself in good shape. I make sure that I have goals that I'm working towards. I interact with the people that I care about. I live a marvelous existence that I'm very satisfied with. And you see all those things that I've just said? The Jews and Israel and Netanyahu have no ability to influence these things. I am able to live the wonderful existence that I live because I don't offload responsibility for my life to anybody else. I don't seek to blame other people. I take full responsibility for my existence. Yes, is the game difficult to play? Is the game of life difficult? Yes. Is it difficult economically at the moment? Yes, it can be difficult for some people. But folks, we talked about this with my Christmas special, my 3-part Christmas special, My Beef with Christmas. Folks, we have to be honest. A lot of people are absolute idiots. They get themselves into debt. They go around on autopilot. They offload their thinking. They don't run experiments fairly. They give money away willy-nilly to other people. They don't take care of their finances. They don't educate themselves. We live in the internet age. We have access to easy knowledge. People don't bother their whole to educate themselves. How to actually make their money safer, how to make money in more efficient ways. People have access to information. People don't use the information. People don't educate themselves because they are lazy and they are looking to blame someone else for their shitty existence. They don't take responsibility for their life. And instead, what do? They get on to Twitter. They get on to Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. And what do? They blame the Jews. They blame Israel. They blame somebody else other than themselves. I'm not saying that the economic climate is super easy to live in. But you need to have a cold, hard look at yourself. Are you really doing everything to maximize and optimize your own existence? Are you honestly, be honest, are you really doing your best? Or are you floating around on autopilot? Not even paying attention to the incredible amount of knowledge that you have at your disposal on the internet and in books and in libraries and with people that you are now able to get in touch with thanks to technology. The ability to travel to any place on the planet if you want to seek more information. Are you putting yourself in debt? Are you trying to buy things that you can't afford? Are you having kids that you can't afford? Are you buying fancy cars and fancy houses that you can't afford? Are you trying to grandstand to other people in your community and sacrificing your own life so that you can try to give the impression on Instagram that you're living this really cool life when you're really not? Are you really doing everything you can to optimize your existence? Probably not. And these people online, to relate it back to what I'm saying, this growing contingent online, this Israel critical, this Jew critical contingent, of course Israel should be subject to a thoughtful, critical analysis. Of course it should. Of course Netanyahu and any politician or any government should be subject to a thoughtful, critical analysis of their actions. Nobody's saying that shouldn't happen. In the same way, should the Jewish elite be subject to a critical, thoughtful analysis of their actions and behavior? Yes. Of course they should. Nobody's disagreeing with that at all. Nobody has a problem with any person coming online and being involved in a thoughtful analysis of any of these things, trying to diffuse useful information out into the world. That's a good thing. Nobody is disagreeing with that. But to then go a step further and say, the reason why my life is shit is because of the Jews. The reason why my life is shit is because of Netanyahu and Israel. If that is the next step you take, then you deserve the shit life, the miserable life that you have. Because what you are doing is you are offloading responsibility for your existence and trying to blame someone else for why your life is shit. My life is great, and I talk to a whole bunch of people who also would echo something very similar to what I'm saying. They really enjoy their life too. So why is it that some people who aren't multimillionaires are living a great life and you aren't? Did you ever ask yourself that question? Why are there other people who don't have hundreds of millions in the bank or billions? Why are there other people who are living perfectly satisfactory lives, who aren't complaining, who are actually very engaged with their existence and have a lot of purpose and a lot of meaning? Why do you not have these things? We all live in the same world. Are you subject to different laws of physics? Are you? Is there something that's restricting your locomotive abilities? Are you unable to function like another human because physics operates differently for you? Bullshit. You're lazy. That's what you are. You're lazy and you want to offload responsibility to other people. Blame other people. Blame the Jews. Blame Israel. And to relate this back to Andrew Tate on the PBD podcast, there were so many people. He sold out to the Jews. It's the Jews. The Jews have got to him. He's taken the check. He's compromised. PBD, he's a Jew. He's a Mossad agent. Adam Sosnick, he's a Jew. He's got the dagger out and he's stabbing Andrew Tate in the back. This growing contingent online, there are a whole bunch of idiots in it. Now, there are some very legitimate people in this category of Israel critical and Jew critical people. Of course there are legitimate people in there. Absolutely. Who are engaging in thoughtful critical analyses of Israel and of the Jews. That's fine. Of course, I'm not saying everybody's an idiot in this contingent, but my gosh, there are far more retards and idiots than what I thought. It's like anything that happens in the world now. These idiots just blame the Jews. Andrew Tate goes on to the PBD podcast. It's the Jews! The Jews have got to him. It's remarkable to watch. It's remarkable to watch people get completely enveloped. People get completely hemmed in to this social media echo chamber. Because that's exactly what this is. These Israel critical people, these Jew critical people, they live in an echo chamber whereby their own bias towards Jew criticism and Israel criticism is confirmed by the very algorithm on the very social media platform that they are using. And so what happens? They become even more hardcore, even more extreme in their belief that everything that happens in the world, including a bird shitting on you, is to do with Israel and the Jews. That is where it has got to with some of these people, or a large swath of these people on the internet. It's remarkable to watch. It's remarkable to watch people offload their thinking, get totally trapped by the social media echo chamber, not come to their own conclusions, not think logically, not go to the source, not to run a fair experiment, not to cross-reference your thinking with other, more credible, accurate sources of information. It is remarkable to watch. And then you see more people get totally trapped by the echo chamber. And then what ends up happening? What ends up happening then? Let's take this Israel critical and Jew critical contingent that are saying Andrew Tate has sold out to the Jews. He has a Jewish handler. Those people, that contingent that blames everything on the Jews, including their own miserable existence. The Jews have wrecked the economy. That's why my life's miserable. Oh well, I may as well just kick back and type on X like a retard. I may as well just do that. Sure, that's really productive. That's going to help me, isn't it? That's going to put me in optimal circumstances. Writing on X, or writing on TikTok, or YouTube, a comment. That's really going to optimize my life, isn't it? But you see, the reason why my life is shit is because of the Jews. And the Jews have figured out how to manipulate physics. And what they've done is, they've put this little environment around me, this unique environment where physics operates differently and it makes my life miserable. These people will blame everything, including their own miserable existence, on the Jews. That is what is happening with this social media echo chamber. It gives people a reason to blame other people. It allows people to confirm their own worldview. It is the most anti-scientific thing ever. What have we talked about here on the show, folks? The essence of being a great scientist is what? Not trying to confirm or prove your theory, but to disprove your theory. That is the essence of a great scientist. And that is the essence of great science. Not trying to confirm what you think is true. Not trying to prove what you think is true. It's actually trying to disprove what is true, or what you think is true. That is how you are more likely to arrive at the truth. That is how you make your worldview more solid and more distortion-free. What does the social media echo chamber do? The complete opposite. It feeds you things that confirm your bias, that confirm your worldview. And so you never become an organism in motion. You are stagnant. You're a stagnant organism. You are never in motion. And when you're not in motion, and when you are not broadly aware of what is happening, when you are in a bubble, in an echo chamber, and you don't know what's happening outside of that, you know what happens? I'm going to repeat it again. You are easier to control, manipulate, and exploit when you are in that state. When you persist and exist in the social media echo chamber, that is what you are subjecting yourself to. The end game of living, the end result of living in the social media echo chamber is exploitation. And do you know who is at the butt of the exploitation? You. You are at the butt of the exploitation. And if you remain in this echo chamber, blaming the Jews, blaming Israel, blaming the government, blaming the politicians, blaming all of these people, offloading responsibility for your life, if that is how you want to live your existence, good on you. You are going to get exploited. And you deserve it. What's the way to not increase your probability of being exploited, folks? Come to your own conclusions, first and foremost. Come to your own conclusions. Don't outsource your thinking to anybody. It doesn't matter how great you think they are. It doesn't matter if it's your best friend. Do not, first and foremost, outsource your thinking. Come to your own conclusions first. You should always run experiments. And when you run experiments, you should run them fairly. Meaning, you should get both sides of the argument. Meaning, you should always go to the source. When you hear about something, go to the source. Get both sides of the argument. Make sure you're not being walked into an echo chamber. Get both sides of the argument. Then once you have come to your own conclusions, that's great. That's really important. But to make sure that we haven't overlooked something, then what you want to do is cross-reference what you have come to, the conclusions that you've come to. Cross-reference your thinking. Don't offload or outsource your thinking. Cross-reference your thinking with other reliable sources of information that you have ran a background check on, that you have a past history on, and who present as credible sources of information. You cross-reference your thinking with them, and that, folks, is the best way to avoid the end game, which is exploitation. That's the way you do it. And this example with Andrew Tate and the PBD podcast hosts, it's a great example of this, because whether you agree or disagree with me on my conclusion, or the conclusions that I've reached regarding this, some people are going to say, Tate did throw Sneeko onto the bus. He did throw his friends onto the bus. Tate did bend the knee. He did sell out. PBD is a Mossad agent. Adam Sosnick is a Jew who will stab Tate in the back, or anybody in the back. You may come to those conclusions. And you may disagree with everything or part of what I've said with respect to this particular incident. But please, make sure that you are basing your conclusions on your own independent thought and your own independent process that has been engaged with in order to acquire the information. Make sure you are cross-referencing what it is that you are concluding. And if you then come to a conclusion that is in disagreement either completely or in part with what I've said, fine, that's okay. At least you've went through the right avenues to arrive at your conclusions. That's the point. At least you're not in an echo chamber. Because we don't want to be in an echo chamber. The echo chamber is what makes us easy to control. It's what makes us easy to manipulate, and it's what makes us easy to exploit. Nobody wants to be exploited. Nobody wants to be at the butt of exploitation. So get out of the social media echo chamber. Use social media, yes. It can be a useful source of information for getting in contact with people, for striking up relationships, for business opportunities. That all goes without saying. I don't even want to get into that. We know that already. It's the trap, folks. It's the echo chamber trap. That's what we don't want to fall into. All right. So, a long show. We've been doing a lot of reflecting. I'm thirsty. I need more water. Now, I can feel my lips are dry. That's why I'm licking my lips a lot. The weather has changed here in Ireland. So it was initially very cold. Now it's a little warmer, 8 degrees. That's actually pretty good. It's wetter, but it's warmer. And I can feel that my skin, the skin on my lips, they are a little dry and chopped. I need to do something about this. But anyway. Let us see, folks, what is in the live chat. Is there anybody in the live chat? Well, there probably isn't. Let me see my phone. What time are we on? 10 to 5. Feels like it's the morning time. I've got so used to doing the show at 11 a.m. It's weird looking at almost 5 to 5. But anyway, let's head over to the live chat. Let's see if there's anybody in the live chat. We may be getting a bagel. Could be a bagel incoming. Let's have a look and see. Let's get this set up. Live chat, all messages. And indeed, we have a bagel. There is nobody in the live chat. Nobody is in the live chat. Lord Jesus. We get through an hour and 54 minutes. And the Bandito's wondering, will there be a live chat? I know why there's not a live chat. It's the Jews. It's Israel. Netanyahu has hacked the Bandito's account. And the Jewish elite, they are restricting live chats to the Bandito Talks live show. That's why I have no live chats, of course. Or maybe it was the government. Maybe the government in general. Maybe it's not the Jews. Maybe it's not Israel. Maybe it's the government. Maybe it's some other hacker. They're trying to stop me breaking loose and going on the Bandito's generational run. Nick Fuentes is on his generational run. Clavicular is on his generational run. The Bandito should be on his generational run. I know I've only been going for 2 or 3 months, but I should be on a generational run. It goes without saying. No live chats. It has to be Israel, it has to be the Jews, it has to be the government, it has to be some hacker. Someone has hacked me. It couldn't be anything to do with the fact that maybe I haven't been able to engage the audience. There shouldn't be any self-reflection, of course. I should just blame and offload responsibility for my show. Have you been paying attention, folks? Well, I think that draws everything to a close, though. I think that's a good show. A good show indeed. A lot covered. A good way to start the weekend, I would argue. We will be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Trust me. But if you enjoyed the stream, I would say give me a thumbs up if you thought the stream was a load of crap, if you thought it was a load of bollocks, if you thought I was talking out of my hole, then give me a thumbs down. A thumbs up or a thumbs down, whatever tickles your fancy. Of course, if you are watching this live show, after the live event has concluded, then get down into the comments, let me know what you thought about everything that we talked about here this afternoon. And then finally, folks, feel free to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy what we do here at Bandito Talks. Subscribe on YouTube. We are live here on YouTube every Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So Friday through to Sunday, we are live here at 11 a.m. Irish time. If you want a bit more from the Bandito, we are also live over on Rumble from Monday to Thursday at 11 a.m. Irish time. So the Bandito is live every day of the week, Monday to Thursday on Rumble at 11 a.m., Friday to Sunday here on YouTube at 11 a.m. I would encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I would use the little scrolling black banner below and use that to head over to Rumble. Bandito Talks on Rumble. Feel free to subscribe to the channel over there. We talk more US politics, US stories over on Rumble. Here on YouTube, we are more of a free spirit. We talk about a greater variety of things outside of the US. But feel free to subscribe to both channels. Here on YouTube, Bandito Talks. Over on Rumble, Bandito Talks. And that draws everything to a close, folks. That is your Friday off to a magnificent start, I hope. Enjoy the rest of your Friday evening, and all being well, I shall see you here tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. here on YouTube for some news on the tube. We are back with our News on the Tube segment. We will see what is going to greet us. News on the Tube. Join us tomorrow for some News on the Tube. 11 a.m. Irish time here on YouTube. Enjoy the rest of your evening, folks. And with that, it is over and out. from the Bandito.